Good deal. All right. Well, kiddos, are you ready? Kiddos, are y'all ready? You're not answering. Are y'all ready? Yes. All right. Hey, kids, why don't you go make your way to kids' church? You want to try again? Okay.
Bathroom. Lock myself in the stall.
Pause and go back to your beginning.
When I really believe that that's where the lie was set.
Hang on, that's all right.
Who I want.
That's all right. We'll go with plan B. I know. I hate when things don't work out, don't you?
Yes.
But God is still good. God is still good. God is still good. So here's what I invite you to do with me for just a moment, okay? I want to ask you that if you have anything in your hands, if you have anything in your hands at this moment, you put it down. Just kind of put your hands, maybe cross your hands like this. And then close your eyes. Anything that may be heavy on your heart, or something that you just can't stop thinking about. Let's pray together Psalm 46:10. It just simply says, "Be still and know that I am God." So Father God, would you allow me to be still today? All of the things that the world has going on around me, may they be suppressed. Allow me to just be still. Allow me to receive what you have for me. Pray that you'd speak into me. Affect me, I pray today. In Jesus' name. Everybody said. An ancient Chinese proverb that says, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." I was sitting at breakfast yesterday with men, and this came to mind, and there were two truckers there, and there was one or two others that were coming to mind that were like, "Man, you guys see 1,000-mile journeys all the time. Maybe you do a lot of road traveling, and so you know what a 1,000-mile journey looks like. 1,000-mile journey doesn't just happen. There's a point of starting. There's a point of that first step." We're working through Chronicles of Joshua. And I'd like to read for us chapter 3. If you have your Bibles, I would like to invite you to read with me chapter 3 of the book of Joshua. This is an incredible story. Incredible story. This is what it says. "Early the next morning, Joshua and all the Israelites left Acacia Grove and arrived at the banks of the Jordan River, where they camped before crossing. 3 days later, the Israelite officers went through the camp, giving these instructions to the people. When you see the Levitical priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God, move out from your positions and follow them. Since you have never traveled this way before, they will guide you. Stay about a half mile behind them, keeping a clear distance between you and the Ark. Make sure you don't come any closer." Then Joshua told the people, "Purify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do great wonders among you." In the morning, Joshua said to the priests, "Lift up the Ark of the Covenant and lead the people across the river." And so they started out and went ahead of the people. The Lord told Joshua, "Today I will begin to make you a great leader in the eyes of all the Israelites. They will know that I am with you, just as I was with Moses. Give this command to the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant. When you reach the banks of the Jordan River, take a few steps into the river and stop there." So Joshua told the Israelites, "Come and listen to what the Lord your God says. Today you will know that the living God is among you. He will surely drive out the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites." I think they're all cousins. "Look, the Ark of the Covenant, which belongs to the Lord of the earth, will lead you across the Jordan River. Now choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. The priests will carry the Ark of the Lord of all the earth. As soon as their feet touch the water," listen, "the flow of water will be cut off upstream, and the river will stand up like a wall." I'd love to see that. So the people left their camp to cross the Jordan, and the priests who were carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. It was the harvest season, and the Jordan was overflowing its banks. But as soon as the feet of the priests who were carrying the ark touched the water at the river's edge, the water above that point began backing up a great distance away at a town called Adam, which is near Zarethan. And the water below that point flowed on to the Dead Sea until the riverbed was dry. Then all the people crossed over near the town of Jericho. Meanwhile, the priests who were carrying the Ark of the Lord's Covenant stood on dry ground in the middle of the riverbed as the people passed by. They waited there until the whole nation of Israel had crossed the Jordan on dry ground. Pretty cool, huh?
Amen.
Last week we began the subject of courage. Just as you're thinking about a river at flood stage and the idea of stepping into a river at flood stage. How many of you guys have ever gone to the river, floated the river, swam in the river, and it was very, very fast moving? Do you remember how that was a little bit scary? You know, they tell you that, you know, whenever we got a lot of rain, they shut down the float trips over to Illinois. At least the smart ones did, you know. But the reason why is because of the danger and the risk. So can you imagine the courage it took for the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant to step into the Jordan River? We're going to be talking about courage today. Courage to step. We defined it last week as a mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. That's the definition for courage. To hold and have the mental or moral strength, sometimes both, to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. Courage, wonderful thing, courage. I'm going to share with you a very simple power statement today. All right? If you want to write this down, if I don't remember if you have blanks or not to fill in, but here's the power statement for today. You ready? When the Lord is first, and when we step by faith, supernatural things will happen. When the Lord is first, and when we step by faith, supernatural things will happen. There was no mishap that when the Lord said to Joshua, send the priests first, because the Ark of the Covenant was the physical representation of the Lord, and the Lord went first into the river. And so when we allow the Lord to go first, and when we step by faith, and he says step by faith, it's not by our own power, it has to be by faith, then supernatural things happen. So let's have some fun. You ready? How many of you understand that Jordan River was what the last barrier was for the people of Israel? They had crossed the Jordan River to enter into the promised land, right? We understand the promised land. This is what the Lord had promised to the people of Israel. You're going to enter into the land that I have given to you. And so this was the last journey. We all have promised lands. It comes in different flavors and different colors, maybe sometimes. Sometimes we have this promised land of financial stability. We want to enter into a place where we don't have to worry about the end of the month coming before the end of the money does, you know? We like this idea of financial stability. So that is this promised land we want to enter into. What's the Jordan River that we have to cross? Well, we might have to cut back on our spending. We might have to cut our credit cards. Maybe we have to get a second job. That would be the Jordan, the thing that we have to cross in order to enter into financial stability. Maybe it's independence. Maybe your promised land is, I want to be my own boss. I want to call my own shots. I want to do my own thing. What's kind of a Jordan River would that look like? Well, for some people, it means that they move out of their parents' house and get their own job, get their own apartment, get their own place. And all the parents said, amen. Sometimes that promised land of independence, I want to be my own boss. I want to call myself, fine. Go get you a job, go get you an apartment. There you go. That's the Jordan River you've got to cross. Maybe independence means you want to start your own business. You want to be your own boss. You want to have your own sole proprietorship. That's the Jordan River that you'll have to cross in order to attain that kind of independence. Maybe your Jordan River is you have a desired career. Someday you want to be a doctor. Maybe someday you want to be an accountant. Maybe you want to work in the military. What's the Jordan River that you have to cross? Well, maybe you'll have to go to school. Maybe you'll have to go to college. Maybe you have to go to technical training. Maybe you'll have to join the military in order to do something. That Jordan River is there. For every promised land to be attained, there's the Jordan River to be crossed. Do you understand what I'm saying? Nod your head and smile. Yeah? Show me your big old teeth. There we go. That's awesome. For every promised land there's the Jordan River to be had. Maybe you want to live without pain anymore. And what that means is that the Jordan River that you have to cross is agreeing to finally have surgery on your shoulder, or on your knee, or on your head, or whatever's not working right. Maybe you want to live healthy, so you go, and the Jordan River is you start taking the steps to watch what you eat. You start working on exercise. Maybe work on cutting out sweets and pop and things like this. Maybe you take other measures. But the Jordan River is what you're willing to cross in order to enter into the promised land of living a healthy life. You smell me? I'm sorry. As the church, the desired promised land that we have is for us to be a growing and vibrant and healthy church filled with all age groups, particularly young people. Particularly young people, because that's the next generation. And we want that generation to turn the doors, right? Yeah. So what's the Jordan River look like? Well, we have to be able to trust the church to the next generation. We have to be willing to trust the church to the next generation. I was approached this past week, sidebar, by some people of the next generation saying we've got some ideas about transforming, maybe making changes to our worship facility that might make it a little bit more appealing to a younger generation. And they presented some ideas, and really good ideas, and we presented them to the board, and the board said, we got to trust the next generation. So that said, I'm going to let you know that there's going to be a little meeting this afternoon, or immediately right after church, for any of you who want to hear more about this. If you've been contacted to meet, then please plan to stick around afterwards, and we'll talk and scheme through this. But you've got to understand, at the end of the day, the desire is to reach the promised land. The promised land is a growing, healthy, vibrant church filled full of people of all ages. That's the desire of promised land. Just got to be willing to cross the Jordan River. The ultimate promised land. The ultimate promised land is to live a life filled with the joy and the peace of knowing Jesus. That's the ultimate promised land, is knowing Jesus and living with joy and peace, worry-free. And of course, having an ultimate promised land in eternity. There's the Jordan River there to cross too, and that is to trust your life to Jesus. To trust your life to Jesus. So what does it look like to cross the Jordan? Well, when the Lord is first, and when we step by faith, then supernatural things happen. When the Lord is first, and when we step by faith, then supernatural things happen. This idea of stepping into the Jordan takes courage. Would you agree? We've already talked about a river flood stage and what that looks like to step into it and get pulled under. Anybody ever have any bad experiences with this? That maybe testified, a lung and a half full of water? Yeah. It takes courage to step into a Jordan River. And I think part of the reason why it takes courage is because it don't make sense. Who steps into a rushing river when the bank works just fine? Why would I want to cut out my credit cards? Why would I want to get a second job? That don't make sense. I'm going to just find a way to get there. Why would I want to cut back on my sweets and my why would I want to join a gym? That don't make sense to me. Crossing a rushing river doesn't make sense to us. But yet, the truth of the matter is that it's on the other side of this river is where the promised land is. So let's talk a little bit about 3 phases of stepping. Okay? 3 phases of stepping. First one is this. Before you can step, you got to know where you stand. Before you can step, you got to know where you stand. And we talked about standing last week. We talked about how the Lord instilled courage underneath the feet of Joshua. And we talked about what that looked like in 5 Avenues history. He said, as I promised to Moses, I promise to you. What does that look like maybe towards the promised land that you're wanting to enter into? Maybe you want to start your own business, or maybe you want to enter into a new career or financial stability. What does that look like? Well, who else has done this before? What other people do I know that have had successes in the past, that have had some history in doing this? Oh, well, that's encouraging to know. The Lord says, as I have promised to Moses, I promise to you. Second is partnership. The Lord says, I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. If ever you want to step into a promised land, who's going to be your support team? If you want to go into business for yourself, will you have somebody who will be your cheerleader, somebody who will make you be a partner in this business? Third one is qualification. The Lord says to him, you are the one. You are the one that will lead the people across the Jordan into the promised land. And if you have a promised land that you want to enter, you have a vision. You have empowerment. And you'll need cheerleaders to say, you got this. The fourth one is an adherence to Scripture. The Lord told Joshua, study Moses' writings. Study those words. Don't veer from them left or right. Keep your nose in the book. And if you have a desire to enter into a promised land of your own, whether it be physically fit, you got to obey the rules, right? There's guidelines that you have to establish. And some of you are like wrinkling your nose. Really? Y'all look funny when you do that when I'm saying that. Okay, never mind. I guess I'll move on. When I'm like a lead balloon. The fifth one was command. The Lord commanded. He said, because I said so. He said, you are the man, and I expect you to be courageous in doing this. This is a part of your DNA. And if you have a desire of entering into a promised land of living pain-free, just do it. So the first step in stepping is to know where you stand. On what basis is your courage founded on? The second one is prepare to step. Prepare to step. In chapter 1 of Joshua, verses 10 and 11, Joshua then commanded the officers of Israel, go through the camp and tell the people to get their provisions ready in 3 days. You will cross the Jordan River and take possession of the land the Lord your God has given you. How many of you have ever rode a subway or a bus, and in order to get onto the bus, you had to move into position, right? You had to move into position. You had to get ready to step. You got to be ready to step. Maybe if you want to go into business for yourself, or you want to see what kind of surgery you need to have done on your knee, you might make some phone calls. You might learn to say, what do I need to do this? Maybe you've got a desire to do some modifications on your house. To prepare to step would mean you do the research. What do I need to do to get there, to do this? Make some phone calls. Part of the planning and preparation for the update ideas for the sanctuary, ideas were found on Pinterest. Go figure. Right? And when all else fails, Google it. But whatever the case may be, you got to know where you stand. You have to prepare to step. That means you make the phone calls, you do the research, you make inquiries, you talk to people who else maybe also had surgeries done. You look at other business models. If you want to go into business for yourself, you look at how that works. Finally, step. 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 Nike, just do it. Just do it. You know where you stand. You've got the preparation done. Opportunity comes along. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Maybe it means enroll in college class. Join a gym. Maybe it means make an appointment for surgery. Maybe it means you contact small business consultants and say, hey, I've got some ideas. I'd like to find out more about what this looks like to actually go into business for myself. I know something like that. I want to point something out. Regardless of where you stand on the fence regarding the Oklahoma teacher situation, there were many people this week who announced their candidacy for office. They knew where they stood, they prepared, and now they stepped. And they said, this has to be done. My promised land is a better program for teaching, for education. And I've taken the step to enter into a Jordan River to make this happen. 3 phases of stepping. 1, stand. Know where you stand. 2, prepare to step. Get all your ducks in order. 3, step. Step. It's a mechanical thing. You understand that? It's a mechanical thing. So what keeps us from stepping? Courage. Courage. Stepping into the Jordan, regardless of what Jordan you're talking about, takes courage. Takes courage. Because it doesn't make sense. But the power statement is still true. If the Lord goes first, and if we step by faith, supernatural things will happen. And that's this story that we're looking at. There are three groups that stepped into the Jordan River this day. There were three groups that stepped into the Jordan River. Three groups stepped into the Jordan and looked up to their side and they saw a wall of water. How cool would that be? Nobody else thinks that's cool but me. I'm like going, that's crazy. Big mouth bass swims up to the edge of the water and she looks at you like you're crazy. Walleye can only look at so much stuff. Walleye? No, flounder. The first group are the Israelites. The first group of the Israelites. The first group of the Israelites. What's the big deal? You see, the Lord had made a promise. And the promise was not just to the Israelites. The promise originated where? Way back in Genesis to Abraham. And the Lord said to Abraham, hey, I'm going to give you a lot of family. I'm going to give you a land for your own. And this promise on this day is going to be fulfilled. And the Lord has made it possible that the Israelite nation will cross into their own promised land. They'll have their own land. On top of that, God will defeat all of the opposition. There's people living there, all those ites, the Girgashites and the Jebusites and the Hittites and the Hivites and the Canaanites and the Ammonites and the Alanites. God's going to take care of those guys. That's what he says. I'm going to take care of those guys. Let's just put that into what that looks like. The Lord will fight for you. How's that for cool? All you got to do is step. The Lord will fight for you. All you got to do is step. Finally, God will provide. You see, I don't think it says it here, but I think it says it in another place. He said, you're not only going to enter into the promised land, but you're going to already enter into the developed land. There will be towns and cities and businesses and fields of livestock and pastures already there. All you got to do is go in and take over it. The cities are there. You just got to go and inhabit it. You don't have to start a business. It's already there. You just go and say, hey. That's how the Lord provides. By the way, an underlying promised land here is obedience. An underlying promised land here is obedience. I didn't get permission on this one. I'm going to tell him anyway. I'll pay for it later, maybe. It's crazy. Crazy. So this week, I entered into ministry 15 years ago. And my Jordan River was to agree to, okay, Lord, if you want me to do this, I'll do this. I'll do this. But I just want to remind you, Lord, and I've said this before, I got 3 daughters, and I know the preachers don't make a lot of money. I don't know where they come from. I don't know where it's going to come from. But Lord, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to step by faith. And God has provided. Yeah, I'm sorry. Cindy graduated this past December. Woo-hoo! Wants to go on a master's program. We said, "Thank you." Shelby is going to graduate in May. And Sarah's still got 2 years. At least the first 2 years. Shelby wanted to go on for a master's program. And found out today, or this past week, that a position came open on campus at SMU, which would basically make it possible for her to not only work on campus, make some money. They're going to pay for a master's. Yeah, like I said, I didn't pay for it later. I wanted to tell you. Because I remembered the promise.
Amen.
When the Lord is first, when you step by faith, supernatural things happen. All right. Sorry. Time out. Okay. This first group, they had a vested interest. They were stepping into the promised land. Because they were about to receive it. The second group that entered into the promised land, this was the 2.5 tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh. I always thought it was funny to think a half a tribe is like trying to dig a half a hole. How did you do that? But this group is a different group. You see, here's the reason why. God had also promised them land, but you know the land that God promised them was the land they were already in, on the east side of the Jordan. The territory they've been wandering around in circles for the last 40 years. God says that's going to be your land. And he says what's going to happen, you can read this in chapter 1, what he says is going to happen is that I want your warriors to accompany the other 9.5 tribes across the Jordan. And I want you to ensure that they will receive their land. He says that your families will all be taken care of. They can get things established back at home. You'll be able to exist and function. Everything will be cool. Everything will be great. But I want your warriors, 40,000 of them, to go with the 9.5 tribes of Israel into the promised land. They stepped into the Jordan River without the promise of paycheck on the other side. They weren't going to reap any benefit from stepping into the river other than being obedient because God had already made a promise to them on the backside. Are you catching me? Do you know why this is such a big deal? I think for me, the reason why this made such a big deal for me was because there are times when we're going to encounter people who want to enter into a promised land. And they need some help. Maybe it's a single mom who wants to go back to college. And they ask their family and their friends for help in watching their kids or applying for scholarships. Things like this. Maybe somebody calls you up and says, hey, can I list you as a reference for a job? What you promise to do is you promise to say nice things about them so that whenever the employer calls, say, man, yeah, that's a great fit for you. You need to hire them. You're going to help them into their promised land without you getting a paycheck for it. You catching it? Do you understand that this is a very important part for the church? The third group is a one-person group, and that's Joshua. The reason why is simple. God had promised him, I want to make you a great leader. I want to make you a great leader. You're going to give some instructions, you're going to give some words, and these people are still hanging on to the legacy of Moses. And you're going to say, do this, you're going to say, do this, you're going to say, do this, make this happen. Let's do this. And then whenever everybody steps into the Jordan River, they're going to say, you know what? That Joshua guy who heard from the Lord said to do this. And we saw something supernatural happen because Joshua told us to do this because the Lord told Joshua to tell us to do this. Joshua is a pretty important guy. Joshua is my leader. I'll follow him anywhere. One of the reasons why this is so important for us is because there are people standing behind us. There are people standing behind us. Maybe it's in the form of your children. They're standing behind you and they're watching you. And they're saying, where are you going? What are you doing? How are you doing? And when those who stand behind you see you keep the Lord first and watch you step by faith, and then they see the supernatural things happen, they will say, I want to be with that guy. I want to follow that person wherever he goes. Maybe it's employees. Maybe it's your peers. Maybe it's your friends. When they see you put the Lord first, and when they see you step in faith, and then when they witness supernatural things happen in your life, they'll say, I want to hang with that guy. I want to hang with that. Last week we talked about courage to stand, and that's really easy. But what happens when the Lord calls us to move? To enter into a promised land. The Lord says, hey, step, let's go into this promised land. I'm scared. Okay, stand. What are you standing on? You're standing on the back that God says he'll never leave you nor forsake you. You're standing on your history. You're standing on adherence to Scripture. You're standing on the fact that God qualifies you. And you're standing on the fact that he expects you to be courageous. Okay, fine. I'm prepared to do this. Okay, all right, step. And everybody has a promise. Everybody has a promise. What's your promise? What's your promise? What's your promise? Maybe you'd like to be able to retire soon. Maybe your idea of a promised land is, I really want to get back into physical shape. And I don't mean rapid. I'd like to be in good health. Maybe your idea of the promised land might be a promotion at work. Maybe your idea of the promised land would be a career, a desired career. Maybe that's your promise land. What's your promise land? What's your Jordan? What is your Jordan? What's keeping you from the promise land? What do you need to step into? Ultimately, this is the deal. If you're breathing oxygen, and you're in the sound of my voice, then the ultimate promised land is living in peaceful harmony enjoy and trust in Jesus with your life. That is the best promised land this side of heaven. What's your Jordan? Take a step. Jesus, I need to trust you with my life. If you say this is what's possible, that's what I trust you with my life. I don't want to be scared and let that rule me. If ever we needed to see people step in courage, today's the day. I see people do nothing because they're scared to do anything. You know what I'm saying? Last questions. Who will you be a Reuben to? Or a Gad? Or a half a Manasseh? Who will you help cross their Jordan so they can enter into their promise? Without thinking, well, what am I going to get in return? And finally, who will you be Joshua to? Who will you be Joshua to? Who's standing behind you today? Father God in heaven, you expect us to be courageous. It's in your mind, it's not an option. Father God, I pray today as we stand on your promises, as we stand on your never failing hand. God, would you give us courage to step? Help us, dear Jesus, to step in faith, dear God. To walk by faith, even more so than sight, dear Jesus. Lord, this example, who steps into a raging river unless God says to? Father, I pray, may we be willing that you go first, then we step by faith. And God, you promised that we'll see supernatural things happen. So may it be so, I pray. In Jesus' name. Everybody said, Amen. I want to ask the ushers to come and help me pass out a sample ballot.